just hard.
It's another fine day here at Mutants and Masterminds.
It sure is. Because it's Monday. And on Monday, we get to hang out with all of our friends, our pals, really, here at the Moomamo Labs.
We do miss everyone. I missed everyone last week.
Yeah. Even though we did some streaming, we didn't get any quality interaction. Not the quality interaction.
Hard to do, surrounded by the masses of Gen Con.
Yeah, absolutely. But hey, look at this. We got all kinds of people in chat.
Yeah, I still haven't got the people off of me from Gen Con. There's still people on me.
It'll take a few weeks to wash that all off.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it kind of stains. Claude here brought, looks like a magic wand, perhaps. Let's see. RC says a magical Moomamo to you, Claude. Oh, to Claude. Fine. That's a fine how you don't. Ken Bam says Moomamo magic. I see what you've done there. I like that. Jonesy says, hey. Hola Jonesy. Why is nobody saying hi to us? They're saying hi to each other in chat.
I know, right? It's like we might as well not even be here.
I know, right? Well, because I haven't removed the modesty shield, it's almost as though you aren't. How about I do this?
Presto.
So abracadabra means you would probably die, right? I don't know.
That's not what abracadabra means.
That's abracadabra.
Abracadabra. Look at this. Oh no, I left the it's a little energetic on screen right now. I'll simmer it down here in a moment. Alex, hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm good. Thank you. I'm good. How are you two?
Wonderful.
I'm good.
Fantastic. Now
I'm having a magical day.
What's that? Good day?
A magical kind of day.
Right?
Yes. I apologize. I did get a little into it on the magical decor. It really was because I thought of these tarot cards, and then I was like, "Oh, that's fun," and then it just kind of took over.
Just spiraled from there.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, look at that down there. All people are going to be doing is watching Modern Magic and your M&M Campaign slide back and forth on the screen.
I have a weird urge to play a fairy godmother in a game now.
I know. I went sort of fairy god, mother, father, sister, brother.
Yeah. Like a fairy godmother whose child they're in charge of wished for a superhero, and now they have to go fight villainy.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah.
Look, we might have a little bit of Twitch is only seeing Twitch chat. And that is courtesy of Restream, which I'm. Restream has done good by us to this point in time, but we have outgrown it, and we're going to be moving to StreamYard. And that's going to open up a whole bunch of new community features and a bunch of good stuff. The fairy Claude Father. I like that. So Twitch, I'm sorry that you're only seeing Twitch chat. Sometimes it resolves itself in the midst of things. All I can do is, thoughts and prayers. So
our guest of honor, Pope, is here.
I was just going to say Pope is here. And you know what? Today's show is courtesy of the mind of Pope. And what that means, Pope, you know what that means, right? It means you get a hero point. And it's exciting because the hero point is this is a real life hero point. You get to take it, use it at any point in time. You get to quickly recover from anything. You get to turn a failure to a success. Now, gentlemen, do you think that you can go back in time, or is it a failure to come?
I think there's some retroactive effect for a hero point. You can retcon some things.
Okay, all right.
So depends on how cool your GM is.
That's true. That is true. You get to present the perfect counter argument just right to their face, and they'll just be devastated. Edit a real life situation or amplify a talent of yours or someone else's if you're that generous. So thank you for the great idea, and let's get into it.
Yeah, we absolutely know that Pope cannot be entrusted with this power, but what can we do? Those are the rules.
We don't hand out the power. We don't decide.
Right.
It's a risk. It's a risk. Hey, real quick before we dive in, I do want to say, we've got our planning episode coming up with 2 shows. Is it 2 shows?
Yeah, pretty soon, right?
I think so.
Pretty soon. It's definitely, I think, yeah. Robert Williams says, I'm at work wishing I were home plotting my campaign with Labyrinth. Yeah, me too.
Right?
Yeah, you know who we are right now? We're like the Guardians giving Guy Gardner a power ring. They should never have given Guy Gardner a power ring.
Right. And yet.
Silly.
And yet, Pope says Steve gets it. Yeah, the planning is coming. And yeah, so I've got some ideas, gents, that I want to run by you. Maybe we can have a planning meeting for the planning meeting, but that's coming up. But let's say you're hanging out at home right now and you're like, I really like this Mumamo. I want them to do, or if only they'd do this. Send, yeah, we will do that thing, regardless of what it is.
I will not do a flip.
Oh, you won't do a flip, but you'll do a barrel roll. You'll do a barrel roll, won't you?
Yes, I'll do a barrel roll, but that feels like a flip.
It does sort of feel like just a front flip. Yeah. Let's see. Rebel Moose says, can't wait to hear Pope use that hero point for something ridiculous in Masks and Mayhem, which of course is the long-running podcast that very recently, Alex, you and I have made guest appearances in separate villainous groups, but it was quite fun.
Definitely did.
Let's see. Gab says, any chances you do a Zatanna-like NPC? Oh.
Yes.
No.
Often.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of spellcasting characters in Mutants and Masterminds. We don't have anybody who casts their spells by speaking them backwards, like Zatanna does. But
I do that too.
Other than that,
a question: modern magic. So, are we talking illusions, or are we talking, or just our era, or what defines modern magic?
I think the best thing that defines modern magic is it is very grounded in a realistic setting, and it lacks a lot of the whimsy that you associate with magic. It's a lot of the magic found in like urban fantasy novels or modern depictions of gods and things like that, where magic isn't necessarily a catch-all solution to every problem. It has its own limitations. It has its own role to play in the story, and it leads to a lot of cool and interesting conflicts based on working around those limitations.
Okay, I like that
definition.
I like that a lot. And then a quick question for Alex: gravy wrestling?
No, thanks.
Nope, sorry. No dice. Okay, well, so is it because the books take care of all the magic for you, right? I mean, you just need to read and see, okay, that's what the magic is, and I don't have to worry about anything else, right?
It depends on the magic system. I often think modern magic sort of falls under, if you're talking literally speaking, there's soft magic systems and hard magic systems, and modern magic tends to skew towards hard magic systems where there are definite rules, there are limitations, there are things that you have to do in order to make it happen. There's often a cost that's either a personal cost or a cosmic, karmic sort of level cost.
Got you. So Warden Maximus says modern magic usually comes with a significant cost.
That is a common theme in magic systems and the portrayal of magic in a lot of modern media. That trope comes up all the time. Magic isn't free. Magic has a cost. There's always a price. Something of that sort always comes up. That's been a big ongoing theme, and that's something that you can incorporate into your, modern magic games if you want.
Got you. Hey, RC says Cork Relic Thigif Anatas Ekam, which I believe is magic for he wants to see a battle between Zatanna and Killer Croc.
Yeah.
So
where she turns him into a newt.
Yes.
My favorite Zatanna spell is Taco Cat because it's the same backwards.
Right.
Yummy. Claude says this, and I'm just, he's fomenting rebellion of some kind. We will crush the rebellion. Okay, he says, fellow audience members, join me in calling for a Book of Magic update for 3rd edition. This is the perfect Mumamo to ask for it.
Yeah, there's possibilities there. I mean, a good chunk of the game system stuff from Book of Magic is in power profiles. At least all of the cool spells and stuff like that are in there. And some of the characters have been updated to 3E in various spots, mostly Atlas of Earth Prime. But there's still a lot of content in Book of Magic that could potentially be reworked.
Yeah, we checked in with a lot of those characters in Nether War also
as well. Yeah.
Gotcha. So it's all there, Claude. It was within you the whole time.
Yeah, but twist my arm. I'll work on a Book of Magic update. That's fine.
Yeah.
So an interesting other question here. Let's see. I didn't know we got this specific, but Fulo monster. Let's hope I didn't just accidentally swear. For a communication ritual, what kind of ingredients specifically to contact a creature in a different realm?
Depends on the creature you're trying to reach, but most often I find that using the esophagus of the creature you're trying to communicate with, as well as the ears in the ritual, is a good way of making sure your message is heard.
Well, I like that. Okay, there you go. Let's see.
Or signal flags. Signal flags are great.
Right. Little magical semaphore.
That helps. That helps a lot, I think. Kind regard. Guess what? I forgot to mention this, and I'm very excited about it. Kind regard, whom we all may know as Glyph. We are going to be the debut of the drafting table with his character Spibby, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, is going to happen right after our show.
Awesome.
I saw that note.
After the show. We're going to give a little breathing room in case we decided to go bonkers and run late. But so that's happening. It's going to be an absolute delight right here. So, hang out, have some fun. Let's see. What kind of souls does Hades find tastiest?
He likes to punish anybody who can be punished ironically.
Right. It's true.
So if you transgress in a specific and interesting way, there's good chances Hades will wind up being your punisher in the afterlife.
Right.
Oranon, one of the things I love about Oranon, and I adore it, is that Oranon keeps us on track. And this is a really good...
Someone has to.
Yeah, honestly, we're just off the rails. Oranon says, maybe we should talk about the state and presence of magic in Earth Prime and how you can maybe shift the status quo in your home base.
Sure.
Oranon's the official producer, I think.
Magic in the Earth Prime setting is, pretty much the sort of classic approach to comic book magic for the most part. It's a power that can be harnessed by a certain number of people. We're never, entirely, definitive about exactly how many, but a small percentage of people have the potential, the talent for learning and using magic. It's probably more than the number of people who do, just because it's hard to learn. It's hard to find somebody to learn it from. And magic is basically, a power that can be harnessed by people with the right knowledge to do all kinds of things. Tap into extra dimensional energies to do practically anything, so far as that goes.
Well, real quick, I want to say hi to either Bear Drummer or Beard Drummer. But it's good to see you. So you were going to, I interrupted you for that.
No,
hello.
Oranon was asking, is magic secret underground stuff? It kind of is. The word occult means hidden, and magic in the Earth Prime universe has a certain secretive quality to it. It involves a lot of esoteric knowledge that if you're going to be really good at it, you have to learn. And it's not stuff that you can just, search on the internet for, or, go down to your local library. It's really hidden esoteric information. You need a teacher or the right sources of arcane lore to learn from, so far as that goes. And probably there's a lot of sort of junk magic out there, a lot of stuff that's not, real, occult theory, but is just a bunch of nonsense somebody has put together. And it probably takes a lot of discernment to figure out the real stuff. When it comes to that.
Lots of study, lots of, yeah.
In my mind, at Earth Prime, there are a couple of high-profile magic users like Adrian Eldritch, the Master Mage. Malador, the Mystic, is probably somebody that at least the general public has an idea of. But I think for every single magic user that's well-known, there's probably 100 or 1,000 that nobody's ever heard of.
Sure. And there are definitely a lot of much more low-powered magic users who don't have the kind of juice that somebody like the Master Mage wields. They primarily do ritual magic. They might have a few ranks in the magic power at best.
Mm-hmm.
They're not throwing around power level 10 to 14 spells. They're way lower level than that.
Yeah, and I do like in our setting that there are so many different styles of magic, like sirens empowered by the voodoo Loa, and there's a ton of different magic gods that we have in our setting, sort of like the Vishanti and Marvel. And there's, you can do just like regular hermetic rituals and all sorts of different ways to summon the power.
Yeah. Then we talked a little bit last time about how divine power is essentially a form of magic, or can be seen as such, but it's much more inherent than the kind of magic as a technology where people are doing spells and working rituals.
So here's something that's interesting. So when we're talking about sort of the kind of different sorts of magic, and I'll be honest, that's a new. I'm exposed to a new idea in this conversation. But there is question. RC says, to piggyback on Oranon, what's a good way to separate magic from other genetic or cosmic powers in a multi-origin setting like Freedom City?
Well, I think the key things about magic is that magic, for the most part, is primarily knowledge-based. It's about what you know how to do and what you've learned to do with it. And magic is about drawing upon certain sources of power. Most powers in the Earth Prime setting, most superpowers are inherent in some way. The power is within the character. And there's a quality of that with magic, but magic is also about drawing upon other sources of power and weaving them into spells and making effects happen that way.
Yeah, I think there's also, when you're sort of differentiating between magic and other power origins, I find that magic users tend to be snobbier than other power sources.
Yeah, well,
mostly because they've spent a lot to gain their power, and they have a respect for what their power can do, as opposed to people who just stumble into their mutation or their I got bit by a spider powers.
Yeah, there's definitely hey, I worked hard for all of these things that I can do. You just got lucky.
Yeah, I think tapping into that fantasy of I worked hard, my powers are very dangerous, and I have a healthy respect for them. I think that's a great way to make your magic users stand out from your other kinds of heroes.
Yeah, I tend to think so too. And I think it's part of the reason why powerful magic users are not quick to share their secrets. They worked hard for it, and they're not just going to give that knowledge away.
Okay, that's interesting. Their work to research and to do all of this, that's why they can be so reclusive or so, duplicitous.
And that's specifically magic users, not people who have magical backgrounds, like they found a magic sword, now they're possessed by a demon, or they're a supernatural creature, or they're a zombie who's been resurrected. Those have sort of inherentness to the other kinds of power origins. They're just flavored as magic.
Right. And those magic powers can primarily differ in that magic in the form of what we can call sorcery or spellcasting is much broader and more flexible, whereas other beings like demons or elementals or other magical creatures who have magical powers have more traditional superpowers, and just the source of those powers is magic rather than something like radiation or something else. But their powers tend to be fairly fixed.
I gotcha. What about the conflict? We kind of hint to a little, like magic users, of an ilk may act a certain way and be a little aloof and maybe kind of, holier than thou. What are some of the conflicts that can come about that you can sort of play into between magic and non-magic powered people, heroes?
I think there's a lot of fun opportunities for conflict between those kinds of PCs, where there is a magic using PC who has worked really hard to become a magic user, and they understand the gravity of what they're doing, and sort of the happy-go-lucky sort of other kinds of heroes. There's a lot of fun ways for those PCs to bump heads and learn from each other, maybe be a little more spontaneous, but also have a little more great power, great responsibility in your life to each other.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And it sort of depends on your setting. I find that if there's a lot of magic around, the more magic there is, the less dangerous magic feels.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want magic to feel sort of different and aloof and powerful, minimize the amount of magical villains you have and make rituals have multiple steps that they have to go through with rare and exotic ingredients, and really lean into that weird esotericness of it.
Mm-hmm. If likewise, if magical, especially player characters, are relatively rare, you can exercise a certain amount of the notion that a magic wielding character has certain insights that other people don't, and you can play the mysterious card of well, I sense that we should not trifle with these events, kind of thing, where the magic user gets all mysterious and is just like I'm going to tell you what to do, but I'm not going to tell you why. Because I'm cryptic and aloof,
especially if they're an NPC,
right?
Or another fun thing that's a little bit more lead time work for GMs. I like to come up with weird cryptic like prophecies that are mostly just images and not really words, so they could sort of describe like images and smells and sounds more than like this will happen at this time, so they can try to interpret it, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A quick update. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. All my audio blew out, and now it's back.
Oh no!
But I can hear everybody now. Hey, Bear Drummer is a bear, also has a beard, likes rum, and is a drummer, or was.
So it works on all levels. Really.
It really does. Like we couldn't have lost. We should have bet some money on that. Let's see. Robert Williams says, "I love my spellcaster, despite her being low powered in the spell department. Her primary attack method is a Mac 10, not a spell."
That's still a pretty effective attack method.
And in doubt.
I mean, and spellcasters don't all have to be throwing bolts of magical energy, or conjuring, glowing shields or things like that. They could have very low-level utility magic that they use for things, but they rely on technology or their powers for, other things.
Yeah, like you just make people itchy or something.
And to be fair, I mean, you are, propelling rocks with explosions very quickly in quick succession. That feels like a spell to me.
Right.
Right. Let's see here. I wanted to grab Bear Drummer wants to be Scarlet Witch. Fair enough.
We have lots of ways to make that happen in M&M.
Sure.
Absolutely. Lothar the Fell-Handed says, my own setting has this cult secret society that actually does have a working magical system, and they recruit anybody they can. They want mages to rule the world, and they're called Omen. Nice. I like that. And that's the thing about like a cult is like if you're contending with a cult, you've got about 50,000 low-level cult members to contend with.
Yep.
Let's see. And that there's something to be said there for magic by quantity, where like everybody's a little bit magical, and that makes everything more powerful.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, because
Titan City has magic cockroaches that work that way.
Magical cults are basically almost always pyramid schemes.
Right.
It's always about who gets the powerful magic up top.
That's right. The Kalima effect, if you will.
Right.
Also, Lothar, you cannot drop an acronym like Omen and not tell us what it stands for.
I've been racking my brain thinking what that could be, and there's a couple of things I missed here. I want to make sure I get. I thought this was an interesting point, and that was the different flavors of magic could also be a source of maybe conflict or story-driven angst. So whomever said something along those lines, you're brilliant, and you get all the credit, but I can't find you. Lothar says, I don't know what Omen stands for. It just struck me as a great name. Open to suggestions.
It's mysterious.
Well, chat, you know what
Get
to do.
Get out of here, RC.
Office of Magic Entities. Yes. Okay. Beard Drummer says, Bear Drummer says, so I have this opportunity for you. It will only cost you 1/3 of your life force at first, but as you recruit others,
right, you can make that back and more.
Yeah, this isn't going to work. I'm sorry for your luck, friend, but you're going to get a lot of really dumb answers like Occult Mastery Elite Nation or Orange Marmalade. Nummy. So I go with that one while you're at it. Stan, sure, I could zap you with a magic bolt, but 100 rounds per second is just so efficient.
Right.
Look, you know how tiring magic is. Just
Yeah.
give me a 357 and I will cast 50 cal over there.
I like that. Oh yeah. So we've got a whole now people are factioning up around ideas. It's just it's a bloodbath in the chat. SC Terran Marine says, yeah, modern magic also might not be compatible with ancient magics. It was you, friend. Somehow, in the Gargoyles cartoon, hey, pull out your bingo sheet. Bingo classic, where human and fey Avalon magic, don't mix.
Yeah.
And that's
and you could definitely play around with the idea that different traditions or styles of magic don't necessarily work together, or they oppose each other, or the like. You can have order and chaos magic and life and death magic and all kinds of other potential oppositions or polarities so far as that goes.
Muscle wizard.
And having PCs who aren't familiar with magic stumbling into this whole world of realpolitik and dealing with all of this could be a really fun setting for them.
Right. Yeah, because then it's the occultist being like, you fools, can't you tell that this is, obviously, necromantic, magic from this particular tradition? They're like, it's all magic to us. Like,
no, we actually don't know that.
Right.
Thank you, Thank you, Thomas Reimer. You could have said that before we got into bed with the necromancers.
Right.
You'd have to keep this as a secret, my friend.
Claude earlier in chat mentioned one of the arcane duology set and said that that there's some great setting kind of flavor stuff in there. What other books are we talking about?
Well, in addition to the arcane duology books, as folks mentioned, Book of Magic from second edition is probably the biggest collection of magic stuff. But Power Profiles has a whole chapter on magical powers and magic spells and how to define all of that stuff in your game. And all of the setting source books, particularly Atlas of Earth Prime, are full of magical characters. And a lot of them are great examples of different traditions or approaches to magic, from sorcerers from all over the world to characters who are just empowered by different mythos or different types of magical beings or the like.
Nice. Everybody take note and run to the store and buy all of them.
Indeed.
Let's see. Power Profiles is great for yeah. That's right. So Gab says, I hope the 2 fiction books will be out soon.
They should be. They were just fulfilled to the Kickstarter backers, so I would think that the reprint books will be working their way out into distribution soon.
Those of you who were at Gen Con got a copy. We got some there. So yeah, absolutely. So they are on the way. Technomancy to me is the iconic example of modern magic, says SC Terran Marine. Yeah. Okay, just explain technomancy. What would that look like?
That is being able to magically control and animate modern technology. So having the ability to start your blender from across the room or turn your vacuum cleaner into a horrible nightmare hell monster.
Right.
There's no in between. Those are the 2 choices.
That's it. That's all you get.
Conjuring digital demons to inhabit the internet and hack people's email accounts. Those kinds of things.
Gotcha.
Yeah, creating that big trash compactor from the end of Brave Little Toaster, because you can't tell me that thing wasn't animated.
Right. Agreed. Let's see. Or use magic to travel through cyberspace.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. So I'm thinking of I don't know if this is. There's actually more of a Bing. Remember that was the kid named Glyph? Was his power like one of the New Mutants? And his power was sort of be able to read all languages and understand them. And he had that Cypher. Warlock. Cypher, that was it. Yeah, Cypher, that was it. And he hung out with Warlock for a bit until, that didn't work out quite well. And then, but what was Warlock?
So Warlock was a techno-organic life form from a species that essentially was evolved super machines. And he was essentially a technological shapeshifter.
Gotcha. So
for all intents and purposes,
no magic there, but
nope.
Gotcha.
And of course, it's worth noting in the comics, because of all of the super science and weird cosmic stuff and all of that, magic is largely just another descriptor put on top of whatever weird powers characters have. They're all basically magic, in the sense that they, ignore things like the laws of physics. And we don't put too much weight on just how realistic a lot of superpowers are. So magic, oftentimes, at least as far in the comics, is just a flavor of superpowers.
Right. Yeah. Aura mentioned something which I think is kind of related to this notion of how we're flavoring our role play, with magic. As someone who plays an untrained magic user, bestowed kind of magic, I find it hard sometimes to figure out where my character can learn about magic lore. It's not like he can go to Mages R Us.
Right. I think that's, and Alex can tell me what your thoughts are in terms of it game mastering, but I really think that's the role for the game master for you and the game master to work out, the kind of plot line you want that to involve. Because a powerful, untrained magic user is sure to attract people, who are going to be like, I sense, a powerful, untrained, chaotic force,
Right.
And either they're going to, want to train your character in some way, at least to ensure that they're not, doing any damage, or they're going to want to manipulate your character in some way. But I would think that character would actually have people coming out of the woodwork to be like, I will gladly train you, and all you'll have to do is sign your soul over to me. I mean,
Right.
Mr. Infamy will definitely send at least one person to be like, hey,
right.
Here, you want to learn how to use magic.
We can arrange that.
Yeah, but there are so many GM opportunities there, especially working with the player during like a session 0 during character concept creation. Speaking about what story arc you want, and if you want your character to be hunted by magic hunters, or be picked up by an interesting and strange mentor, or finding a magic school that invites them to come to magic school to do magic school stuff. Yeah, there's just lots of cool opportunities, and I would work with your GM to figure out exactly what you want to do and empower them to have an NPC that can seek you out for that.
I think that's really sound advice. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It just make for a tighter game and more understanding of the character, and the player and the GM as well. Let's see that. RC says,
to be clear, I think Daedalus's suit is technological, not magic in nature. At least his modern suit.
That is correct.
His older suit, I would say, would probably have some magical elements to it, but he is a character with a magic background who's not necessarily magical.
Indeed.
Let's see, performed.
Actually, Daedalus is a great example of a character who is affected by magic in a lot of ways, but does not like magic at all.
Ooh, I love that complication. That's fun. RC says, would a challenge sequence be a good way to represent like two sustained magic blasts connecting with fighting each other?
That is a textbook example of instant counter, in my opinion.
Indeed, I was just going to say. Yeah, I would agree with that. Unless it was some sort of magical duel, I don't know if I would get into a challenge sequence for it. But like Alex says, I think countering is a great example of magicians hurling spells at each other that sort of meet in the middle and just explode.
Yeah, if it's like the lines are matched up and you want the line to go back and feed back into somebody, I think that might be a deflect power, maybe with the reflect extra, and you could flavor it as the beams are meeting and doing that thing.
I love this stuff. Is there more? I don't want to interrupt because people always end up writing in and saying that they love when we get really crunchy and sort of into the weeds. So, but Lothar says, magic being real in a setting is something that I feel would alter society a bit, because seeing for real magic, even alongside superpowers, will inspire lots of people to seek it out. That's actually a very interesting point. I mean, to kind of think in a world, how would you act if you saw someone being magical?
Yeah, I feel like more than most power origins, that is the one that appeals to ordinary people.
Sure.
Because it's not an accident. It's not, I got bit by something. It's, I found a book and now I can do it. At least that's how it looks to the outside world.
Right.
There's plenty of opportunities for complications with NPCs who are like, look, I've got these powers now, but I can't control them.
Right. I mean, the things that you can easily keep in place to keep those things from getting out of control are the fact that real magic lore is really hard to find. It's really hard to tell the difference between real magic lore and complete nonsense that people have put out there. And magic is not entirely a science. A great deal of magic is reliant on the user. So a lot of people just don't have the dedication it takes. Just like, a lot of people are like, well, look at Olympic athletes. Anyone could train and do what they do, but
theoretically.
Right, exactly. But theoretically, becoming a true master of the mystic arts is not something that somebody decides to devote their weekends to and manages to do it in like 3 weeks. So a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'm going to become a powerful magic user, after the first month of trying and failing miserably are like, screw this. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. I think Doctor Strange is a cool example of something you can do with this, where there was that guy who his spine was paralyzed and he sought out magic just for that little bit of magic. Like he didn't
got what he wanted.
he didn't want to be the master of the universe. He
just that's right. Walk, that's right. Yeah. Interesting. Indeed. Jonata says, in your opinion, what would be the power level of Harry Dresden from the Dresden Files books?
I think PL8.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, I would say probably PL8.
You have a consensus?
With a lot of interesting ritual opportunities.
Yeah, indeed.
Which allow him to punch a little bit above that weight class, but...
Right. But generally speaking, for his routine, day-to-day magic stuff.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. John asks, are there any living ex-archmages of Earth in Earth Prime canon?
Not that we've specified. Usually the archmage mantle tends to pass on after death. There probably have been some cases of archmages who have just retired, master mages who have just decided they're done and passed it on to. Well, yeah, that's true. Malador is a former master.
Is he alive?
Yeah, I was going to say, but he's technically undead. So that's
Lady Seven is still alive.
Kind of borderline. That's true. I mean, but technically, since Master Mage hasn't been filled officially since her, I don't know. I mean, she is former, I suppose. But yeah, generally speaking, we haven't specified a lot of former Master Mages hanging around.
So Ken brings up something I think is interesting: Atlantean magic, requesting a special mention. What's that about?
Well, so Atlantean magic is sort of the flip side definition of techno magic, which is where you replicate the effects of technology using magic. Because Atlantis is submerged underwater, most modern technology that involves chemistry or electricity won't work there or won't work well. But Atlanteans, because they came from an advanced magical culture, have adapted a lot of their magical science, essentially their magical artistry, to create things that are like super science technology. So Atlantean warriors have blaster weapons that are essentially magic wands, that fire blasts of energy. They have crystals that can magically store and retrieve data like computers, or communicate over great distances or things like that. So it replicates a lot of the way we use technology, but it's not powered by things like electronics or chemistry.
Okay. Angel Arroyo asks, how do you deal with magic weapons?
That depends a lot on the magic weapon.
Yeah, I think case-by-case basis. It's not so much like in other games where if you have a magic weapon, it allows you to ignore certain resistances and things like that. It's magic weapons, I feel, in our system should be very specific granters of power.
Yeah, indeed. In the comics, magic weapons are almost always unique magic items, like the Black Knight's ebony blade or Thor's hammer Mjolnir. It's rarely like somebody has a +2 dagger or something like that. They're specific, pretty powerful and unique items. So they're always pretty much individually defined as magic devices.
Nice. Wow. The chat is on fire, I will say today. We have quite an audience, and I want to thank you all for popping by. And if I've missed your question, feel free to repeat it a couple times. Let's see here. I think those are all good points, Steve, says Lothar. There's definitely lots of bunko scam artists selling online courses in magical instruction. Learn from the occult masters. Yeah, exactly. Let us
Chris
see.
Angel Mind Freak is way worse in Earth Prime.
Right.
Much more irritating. Lothar says, magic weapon question. I really like the idea of a magic weapon that bypasses a target's protection and toughness bonus. So a low damage weapon, but it could stab a bulletproof character because magic.
Sure.
Yep. That's just the penetrating extra.
Yeah, basically.
There you go. RC, with my dying breath, I bestow upon you my magic utensils. I like that.
I don't know if you watched this week's Freedom Week Dark in the Multiverse of the Master Mage, but the Nerean Nexus did have living utensils and cutlery that performed a dinner show for the heroes.
Oh, what was what did they perform?
They sing and dance.
Yeah,
they did sing and dance, and they brought food down, and then afterwards they insisted that Gatorman took them back up to wash them, and that was a little strange.
I like it. I like it a lot. Let's see. Hit the like button. It helps to spread the word. That is true. You know, actually, speaking of that, Jonata, I'm glad that you brought that up because, we spend a full week in the Mumamo mines. We picking out content and sort of, assembling all of the pieces of the puzzle that form this Monday program. And you can do us a big favor by sharing it, talking to friends. Let's say there's somebody on Reddit. You will think, you know what, you'd be a better person if you sat down and hung out with these three cool peeps. Send it their way. You can also make sure you like us, make sure you're subscribed. Also, do us a favor. If you are wherever you're at, just look at where, is it a thumb? Is it a heart? Is it a star? There's some stars out there. Yeah, hit the like. You also got to tickle that bell because you want to be notified when we go live and all that stuff. You know what else you can do? Leave a comment. Leave a comment and a question. Say, I really, I agree with that, or I disagree with Steve, which you better dare not. But yeah, no, go ahead and do that for us, and then that spreads the word and the love, and we appreciate it a great deal. Let's see. Speaking of archmages, master mages, what would happen if a dragon became the master mage? What's SC Terran?
They would be master mage for a very long time.
Right. I mean, although plenty of master mages have, a history of magical longevity anyway, I mean, the big question, from a setting perspective would be the dragon's motivation for becoming master mage, because the way we define it in the Earth Prime setting, basically, becoming master mage has basically two paths you can take. You either decide you're going to be the magical guardian of your universe and protect it from all threats, or you have decided you are going to become the magical overlord of your universe, and you are going to control it down to the very fundamental laws of its reality.
Yeah, I think the difference is the difference between Alduin in Skyrim and the Great Dragon from Dragon Ball Z. Those are sort of two choices.
Right. Yeah, Ramapat brings something up that I think is kind of interesting. I believe that you get credit if it wasn't you. Take it. Is the notion of someone actually really finding that ad was true? That they
absolutely.
It's a great story, I think.
Absolutely. Grant Morrison did that whole shtick in one thing where basically all the ads from the backs of comic books about X-ray glasses and things like that were all real. And that's how his Man of Muscle Mystery, got his superpowers, and things like that by ordering through the mail.
That's so great. I love it. Did Mortis get his eye back?
No, I'm keeping that. That's mine.
I like that.
I need it for a spell.
Right.
Yeah, we've got some people really thinking about this dragon situation. How would you deal with flying chariots or burning motorcycles? Asks Angel.
They can either be movement effects with the platform limit, that basically just means that the character can get knocked off of it, but the vehicle is just a special effect. of the character being able to fly or move really fast or whatever. Or you can write them up as actual vehicles that the character has, and they have all of the various properties of vehicles and might have their own powers and other inherent abilities. Depends on how the character interacts with them.
I like it. I didn't realize Lothar's letting us in on a little dark history that the X-ray specs and the sea monkeys have a dark origin story.
That's a rabbit hole that folks are free to dive down into if they want to.
Exactly.
With at their own peril.
Well, now I'm curious.
I am too. Very curious.
I'll look it up after the show, and then I'll do a react video.
Oh yeah, you ought to. And speaking of which, react videos, I do want to say real quick that Alex, you have been doing your Joy of Game Mastering.
I have been.
You just, you kind of snuck one in, and I was like, "Hey, that's Alex. He's on that way." Yeah, I didn't realize you were going on, but I loved it. And do we have one coming up? Not this week, but next
tomorrow, but next week. Yes, we'll be back for something or another. I don't remember what the topic's about, but it'll be good. I'm sure
it'll be real good. And that's kind of the vibe, right? It's sort of like let's just hang out in our own brilliance and share and be extemporaneous with there's some planning and
I have a list of topics that have been suggested by the audience, so they'll be good.
Yeah, you're building a whole thing. That's awesome, and so that's here. And what are we saying? It's Wednesdays.
It's the second and fourth Tuesday of every month.
Tuesday. Why did I say Wednesday? Sorry, the second and fourth Tuesday. And what time is that?
It's usually at 8 p.m. EST.
Nice. There you go, friends.
Although, speaking of Wednesday, Troy, don't we have our monthly developer chat?
We sure do. Let's talk about the Patreon for a minute. We've got pending updates. We're going to front load all of the updates. We've got a lot of good things coming and a lot of good things happening. Not the least of which will be our chat that we're going to be having. And if you want to be a part of it, you're going to want to head over to the Patreon. That's patreon.com/mutants and masterminds. And what have we got cooking behind the scenes, gents, for our Patreon pals?
Well, we have our next M&M mix-up.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for everybody else to see it. I think Steve did an excellent job, and people are really gonna like this adventure.
Fun.
Should be fun.
I'm going to put up the next group for voting.
All right, awesome. And then when are we're posting the mix-up here pretty soon?
It should be by the end of the week, I would think.
Perfect. Awesome. I love it. Okay, here's it. Angel's really thinking about this Ghost Rider. So how do you deal with a character like Ghost Rider for PL and powers?
There's a couple of fun ways to build a character like Ghost Rider. You can build the Ghost Rider form as an alternate form of a Johnny Blaze character sheet. Or you can build two sheets. You can build one for Johnny Blaze and one for Ghost Rider. PL, I'd probably go PL 10 at least for Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I mean, that character has been all over the map, from probably a PL 8 or 9, in the 70s to, the Marvel's cosmic Ghost Rider character is like PL 14, probably, I mean, so it's all over the place, really, as far as that goes.
Yeah, I did build Ghost Rider recently for a convention game. Let me see how I built the penance dare power, because I think I built that pretty interestingly.
Yeah.
Let me pull that up while I'm thinking about it.
It's probably a big affliction of some kind, but
it's bad news for everyone. Bad news.
Yeah, sounds like it. Let's see. So here's an interesting question. So what would the difference between, say, let's say swim speed magic versus superpower versus innate fin's tail, etc., says Bear Wise?
Largely descriptor. I mean, they would do the same thing from a game perspective, in terms of increasing the character's swim speed. Whether or not there would be any kind of significant effect, whether it was magic or the character simply having biological adaptations, depends a lot on what's going on. If there's some sort of anti-magic effect, well, then the magical version doesn't work and the biological one does. The biological one is probably a little harder to take away, as far as that goes, but it may also be more clearly obvious. that the character has aquatic adaptations. So far as that goes, a lot of it is where we talk about the effects of descriptors on the game. Is they're very situational, and they're usually things that are not significant enough to constitute a modifier on the power, as far as that goes. So the answer is honestly not that much.
Hey, Ken, have a great rest of your week, friend. Ken had to head out. So Lothar asks, should they have the power loss complication and alternate form as a power?
I would. Yeah, that's sort of how I build Shazam, thinking of characters that have human form and a super form.
Robert says, without a master mage, what maintains the pact and prevents various gods from rolling in and doing as they please?
The pact is wonderfully self-maintaining.
Lots of master mage juice. I assume every master mage feeds a little bit of energy into it.
Yeah, it's basically a permanent spell. It would take a lot.
Or it pulls a little bit of energy from every magic user on Earth Prime.
Right.
Like a kombucha tea. SC Terra Marine says, I forgot about this question. With dragons being magical creatures restricted by the pact, how would dragons and other magical creatures be able to breach the pact and come to Earth?
Dragons are not restricted by the pact.
No, just gods.
Just deities.
Yeah, just deities. If you're the god of dragons, you can't come here.
Yeah, that's a problem. So that's what's keeping Tiamat off of Earth Prime, I guess. But
there you go. Learn something new every day. Claude, I'll tear down the pact one way or another.
I did. So Penance Stare, I pulled it up. I built Penance Stare as for a power level 10 Johnny Blaze. I built it as power level 10. Alternate resistance will increase range 2 for perception ranged, and then I put a custom limitation on it called this power is tiered based on the wickedness of the target. It can be higher or lower damage per the GM based on how wicked they are.
Right.
And limited only works on the wicked. So
nice. Well, there you go. Hopefully that answers some of your questions, friend. John says, any interest in detailing any more magical planes that we don't know about for the Patreon or otherwise?
No, possibly like folks were saying about updating some of the stuff from Book of Magic, which gets into a lot of magical cosmology and different planes of existence and things like that.
There is a question for clarification. SC Terra Marine asks about the Japanese kami and fae and fairies, little people. Are they not restricted by the pact?
Nope, they can come and go as they please.
Yeah, that's a gray area, and we have implied that it's harder for magical beings to interact with Earth than it used to be. They're not just like always around all the time, actually, seeing the pact as a big net is a good way of putting it. It's easy to trap the bigger things. The smaller things tend to slip through. So far as that goes, the little gods tend to not get noticed as much, but it also depends on what they're doing. And the more involved they get in things, the more likely that that's going to become a problem. But whether they care about the pact or not doesn't matter.
Right. Bearwise says, I'm sorry, just real quick, that wicked is so subjective. One culture's good is a different, a culture's evil. Yeah, that sounds to me like a role play opportunity.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's when you're thinking about specifically for like a Ghost Rider character, that is a demon that probably has Christian views in the loosest sense of the mythology. Like they sort of ascribe to that kind of wickedness, so you can work from there. But in my Titan City setting, if you don't believe in a certain god, you're not beholden to them. So there are Catholic demons and Protestant demons and Jewish demons, and if the Catholic demons don't believe in Methodist Jesus has no power here.
Hey, a quick question: what if you're wicked smart?
That's a different kind of wicked.
Good. All right. I've got the stand signal has been flashed in the sky, so I must tend to the emailings. I'll be right back.
Right. So ghosts are pretty much characters that are permanently incorporeal, usually, or they have sort of a reverse version of incorporeal, where they're normally incorporeal, but they, as a sustained duration, they can become solid. but if anything disrupts their concentration or whatever, they go incorporeal again. And beyond that, it really depends on the style of ghost you want. They might have immunity to fortitude if they're truly undead and not affected by all of the things that affect a living. They might have any kind of weird, spooky ghost powers, from illusions to afflictions or all kinds of things like that. Especially like a mind-controlling affliction for possession, that sort of stuff, if they can possess living people. It really depends on the style of ghost you're doing so far as that goes.
Yeah.
Stan has delivered us another gem.
Uh-oh.
Exactly.
There you go. Anybody can do magic. Let's see. Real quick.
We have the technological ability to turn our voices into light, send it to a satellite, and bring them back down, and turn it back into voice. Like,
yeah,
we live in a magical world.
We do. Let's see. Gab asks, any chance you guys use the Emerald City Sentinels in a future actual play?
We just talked about that, didn't we?
Didn't we? I thought we did.
That did come up as the potential for the next one.
Yeah.
I'll also say that Gab does mention that as a very passionate hope and dream there.
They're a fun group of characters. We should do something.
We should. Holy smokes! It's 2:57. We have mere minutes left. Ron Pat asks, how would you handle a character like Deadman? I understand how he works mechanically, but what concerns do you feel he brings, and how to help him fit into a group?
Well, one of the main issues with Deadman often is that only people with magical sight can see and interact with him.
Yeah.
So I would just make sure each of the PCs has a way to be empowered such to be able to communicate with Boston.
Right, because otherwise it gets super annoying when he has to possess somebody whenever he wants to say something.
Yeah, and I would be very careful and let people know that there are instances where Deadman will possess other characters, and that could be a triggering effect for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would make sure that there are NPCs around that Deadman can possess, so it doesn't have to be a PC every time. As funny as that scene with Batman was in Justice League Dark.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, friends. We are plumb out of time, and I want to make sure we get this handled. I want to thank everybody for your questions. Again, to remind you, we're here every Monday, so you want to come and hang out with us. Maybe you want to send an email to letsplay@greenronin.com and say, hey, I have this idea. Maybe you need relationship advice. Maybe you need some legal counsel. Maybe you need some, I don't know, maybe you got a rash. Send all those pictures to Alex. Don't do it. But feel free to send an email.
Actually, you know what? My mom's a nurse. Send me pictures of your rash. I'll see what she says.
Alex is here for you. He is really. I mean, it doesn't even have to be your rash. Just send a picture of somebody's rash.
Yeah, it's just whatever. I'm easy. I'm done.
Steve, what have you got cooking? What's going on in the world of Steve Kenson?
Well, like Alex says, the next M&M Mix-Up is releasing on the Patreon soon. That is going to be a fun little short adventure. I think the Eclipse Syndicate and Ilsa Portico was an interesting combo, and I think it's got some fun potential as far as that goes.
Nice. Okay. Very good. And then, Alex, what do you got? You have so many things going on, like dancing. Are you frozen, Alex?
I was.
I just swapped
unfrozen now.
Yeah, I was like, you're frozen. You are unfrozen now.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, Ela Portico won.
Yeah.
As far as what I've got going on, we have big exciting news at Untold Stories Project. We have our crossover tomorrow. We have a 2-part crossover between the Gem Stars and the Freedom Week Dark on Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll have, I think, 8 players and 11 characters and 2 GMs. So it's going to be crazy.
Nice. That is. And what time was that again?
And Adrian Eldrin will be making an appearance on 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday and 7 p.m. EST on Wednesday.
Frozen by the power of dance. Yes, that is magical, by the way. Awesome. Anything else we want to let folks know about?
Joy of Game Mastering is next Tuesday. We'll talk about something fun, and yeah, I think that's everything I've got going on in the immediate future.
Look at what we've done. We've given everybody 1 extra minute of Moo Mammo as a gift. Share that with a friend. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Gentlemen, as per the usual, a delightful conversation that went a million different ways and just left everybody with lots of creative ideas and a lot of other questions.
Feels like we could have another hour-long episode about magic.
Right?
I know, honestly, I mean, maybe we could. Maybe
so
we
many
should.
questions.
Yeah,
many meetings coming up, folks.
It sure is. You got to make sure. Yeah, we'll send out some pre-planning meeting reminders so that people can make it. It's a lot of fun. It's one of our. I think it's a thing that we do, a little tradition that I really enjoy. With that being said, we do have in 1 hour, the drafting table is going to pop up a worldwide premiere, but it is it's pre-recorded, of course, so I'm going to try to stop by and have a little chat in the chat, but do check it out. And my thanks to kind regards. Now, if you're hanging out at home and you're like, I've got a character, I want to talk about it, because if you're playing Mutants and Masterminds, let me say there's one thing that unifies you all, and that is you do like to talk about your characters, and I like to listen, and I think it's very fascinating and a lot of fun. Send a note to Let's Play at Green Ronin. We've got so many people in the queue, but there's always room for more. Some really good stuff coming up. So I think with that, we're done, everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you on Thursday for Thursdage. Bye.
Bye, everybody.